On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, who isn't curious about how much money the CEOs of Greater Cincinnati's public companies make? But the Business Courier takes it a step further and looks at how salary stacks up against company performance. In this week's centerpiece, the 11th Bang for the Buck study analyzing Greater Cincinnati's 30 public companies that trade regularly on an exchange. In the #1 spot this year, Joe Raver, CEO of Hillenbrand Industries, the Batesville-based maker of caskets and manufacturing equipment. Raver ranked 19th out of 30 local public company CEOs in pay, well below the $4.8 million local CEO average. To get the scores, each CEO is ranked by pay, including bonuses, stock options, and perks and performance, based on shareholder return for the last fiscal year. The Courier subtracts performance rank from pay rank to determine the greatest differential between performance and pay. A strong company performance and low or declining CEO pay generates the best bang for the buck score. Well, Business Courier reporter Steve Watkins did the legwork on this one and has several stories in this week's issue, including a ranking of the 30 CEOs. He joins Business Courier editor Rob Dahlmeyer in the studio with more on what he discovered. Rob and Steve.
Peg, thanks very much. Steve, thanks for being here.
Sure, thank you.
We don't hear much about Joe Raver or Hillenbrand, for that matter.
Right.
Maybe it's a function of what they do. Or maybe it's a function of the fact that they're in Indiana. But how did Raver get to the top of your ranking?
Yeah, you're right. We don't hear a lot about them. They make caskets and they make manufacturing equipment, two high-profile industries. But it's interesting. Joe Raver was in his first full year as CEO there, so it's pretty impressive he makes the top spot. A couple of reasons. One is his pay is down from what Hillenbrand paid the CEO position last year. It's down 19%. Most of that pay last year went to Kenneth Camp, his predecessor. And the performance was strong. I mean, these are the two things we look at. And Hillenbrand had strong return on equity, strong net income growth. And so they scored well there, even though their stock didn't do quite as well as the S&P 500. Still performed pretty decently, but put it all together, and they gave shareholders the best bang for the buck.
And as you mentioned in the story, one of the stories, if the stock actually does start to follow, then you know, he may be a mainstay up at the top of the list.
That's right.
You've been doing this for 11 years now. What are some of the bigger trends that maybe you saw this year in relation to the past?
One thing is, you know, we look at pay for performance, and it has really gotten stronger, that link between performance and pay in recent years, and more this year. Executives got a lot more of their pay in the form of stock. 45% of it, it came in stock, not cash, not bonuses. And a lot of the executive pay experts we talk to say stock is really the best way to tie their interests with shareholders. Obviously, they all are shareholders at that point.
Right.
So that's one of the things. Pay went up about 4% here. That's less than what it was nationally. The S&P 500 CEOs pay increase was about 7%. So those are some of the big things, just that boards and compensation committees are looking a lot more at performance. Shareholders have this say on pay vote now that gives them a lot more say.
So let's finish up with this. There is still a hue and cry from some corners about the fact that CEOs at public companies make, you know, giant amounts of money compared to me,
the average person.
Yes. Is that changing at all?
It is, but only slightly. Things are getting a little bit better. The Cincinnati CEOs still make 134 times what the average U.S. worker makes, the non-management worker.
Right.
S&P 500 CEOs are 373 times, so at least we're not that bad.
Right.
But one compensation expert told me that the trend is getting better. Companies are looking more at this. And they still have a lot of work to do, obviously, but at least it's getting a little bit better.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here, and it's a wonderful package, so hopefully everybody will pick it up this week. And Peg, back to you.
All right, that's a lot of bang for the buck out of Steve Watkins. Thanks, Rob.